August 15, 1947, marked the moment a modern state reclaimed a sovereign legacy 5 millennia in the making. The physical roots of that society sit in the Indus Valley. By 2500 BCE, cities like Mohenjo-Daro were executing complex urban planning, utilizing baked brick architecture and highly organized drainage systems. Around 1500 BCE, the arrival of the Indo-Aryans introduced the 4 Vedas. These texts laid down a spiritual and philosophical foundation that would organize the subcontinent for centuries. That philosophical tradition expanded outward. In Lumbini, the birth of Mahatma Buddha catalyzed a system of religious inquiry that influenced populations across the entire continent. Looking at this territorial map from the 4th century BCE, we can track the scale of the first indigenous states. Chandragupta Maurya consolidated fractured regional kingdoms into the Mauryan Empire, extending an organized administration across nearly the entire subcontinent. Statecraft evolved through heavy conflict. In 261 BCE, Emperor Ashoka engaged in the brutally destructive Kalinga War. The human cost of this battle pushed the imperial state toward a policy of nonviolence and administrative welfare. Power eventually centralized again under the Gupta dynasty. Chandragupta II oversaw an era of economic growth and scientific output, while later rulers like Harshavardhana governed a vast northern territory from the capital of Kannauj. Over thousands of years, this region built a civilization with vast economic resources and a highly developed intellectual tradition. That concentration of wealth and culture is precisely what made it an eventual target for subjugation. The internal architecture of the subcontinent eventually fractured. Power transitioned to medieval Islamic dynasties, beginning with Qutb-ud-Din Aibak and the establishment of the Delhi Sultanate. In the year 1526, the First Battle of Panipat triggered a structural shift, bringing the Mughal Empire into power. The Mughals commanded an era of immense financial leverage. Under leaders like Akbar the Great and Shah Jahan, the empire generated roughly a quarter of the world's GDP, funding projects like the Taj Mahal. In 1757, the Battle of Plassey introduced a devastating precedent. By defeating the Nawab of Bengal, a foreign corporation, the British East India Company, seized control of India's wealthiest province, establishing a foothold that would eventually compromise the sovereignty of the entire region. Centuries of shifting dynastic borders and internal conflicts had left the subcontinent politically vulnerable. A historic civilization was steadily swallowed by an overseas empire. Precisely 1 century after Plassey, the tension snapped. The year 1857 marked a violent rupture across the subcontinent. A dispute over the grease used in new Enfield rifle cartridges pushed diverse, historically divided factions to align and turn their weapons against the British military. The colonial states' response was absolute. They crushed the rebellion with military force, cementing their administrative dominance. The failure of the 1857 rebellion proved that fragmented, localized armed uprisings could not dislodge the British Empire. Defeating an industrialized colonial power would require a highly coordinated, multi-front machine. The first mechanism of resistance focused on cultural unification. Social reformers like Dayanand Saraswati, who founded the Arya Samaj, and Raja Ram Mohan Roy with the Brahmo Samaj, worked to consolidate a diverse population through internal reform. Literature reinforced this shared identity. Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay wrote Vande Mataram, providing a unifying anthem for a fractured society. With a cultural foundation laid, political organization followed. In 1885, the founding of the Indian National Congress created a formal framework to challenge British policies. This political framework mobilized millions under Mahatma Gandhi. From his work in Champaran to the 1930 Salt Satyagraha, he engineered a strategy of nonviolent civil disobedience to paralyze the colonial economy at scale. This mass mobilization carried a heavy human cost. In 1919, British troops fired on a peaceful gathering at Jallianwala Bagh, stripping away the remaining moral justification for colonial rule. By 1942, the nonviolent front reached its peak with the Quit India movement, demanding an immediate and complete British withdrawal. Decades of social reform and mass nonviolent political strikes dismantled the administrative infrastructure of the colonial state from the inside out. While Gandhi dismantled the system internally, an armed revolution applied pressure from the outside. Young leaders like Bhagat Singh embraced direct militant action, resulting in his execution in 1931. Subhash Chandra Bose escalated this threat. He exited India, formed the Azad Hind Fauj, and secured international military alliances to fight from the borders, popularizing the unifying slogan, Jai Hind. By the mid-1940s, the colonial administration faced a dual crisis. The scale of Gandhi's internal civil resistance, coupled with the external military threat posed by Bose, forced the British to concede that their authority was no longer sustainable. On August 15, 1947, the British withdrew. The subcontinent reclaimed its independence. The immediate challenge shifted from revolution to state building. Jawaharlal Nehru assumed office as the first prime minister, taking control of a newly sovereign government. The physical borders of this new state had to be secured. Sardar Patel negotiated the integration of hundreds of fractured territories, unifying the map of modern India. On January 26, 1950, Dr. Rajendra Prasad took office as the first president, and the new constitution went into effect. The Republic of India was established, restoring the sovereignty of one of human history's oldest continuous civilizations.